You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 278. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Spencer Valadez.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and other nifty content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy this program, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher.
You can also rate and review us on either of those platforms.
Yes. So today, Spencer, you and I are going to continue our coverage of the Punisher limited series from the 1985 and 6s.
Yeah.
That's a weird way to say anything.
Yeah.
So, before we get talking about the two issues today, I want to go over some notes that writer Stephen Grant gave us some insight on the creating of the series. So refer back to that last episode. There were some things we brought up. Rikers, and I'll be paraphrasing the notes he gave us. Okay, so Rikers Island with an I is the real world prison.
Right.
Rikers Island with a Y is the Marvel Comics one.
Right.
That's why I was like, I'm all confused. And then there's Strikers at DC.
Yeah.
So, no.
And honestly, I just always assumed that it was the same thing. I didn't even realize the Y and the I were there.
Yeah.
That they were.
I never noticed it.
Yeah.
The second page of issue 1, Stephen says, that second page with the Warden and his aide was my attempt to do the shortest series recap in any Marvel comic ever.
Yeah. Looking back at it, totally. It totally works.
Yeah.
Really fast. Awesome.
Yeah. A really nice panel layout, too, there. Good job, Zach.
Yeah.
Stephen goes on to say, it's also the first place we learned the Punisher's real name. Both of them. So I was like, cool. I didn't realize that was a first there. He'd certainly had some appearances before. I didn't realize that his name hadn't been revealed. Yeah. His actual name. Stephen says, the only reason Jigsaw is in this story, he says he never liked Jigsaw. He was in a Punisher two-parter in Spider-Man. That was his previous appearance. But he was used because he was the only surviving established Punisher villain.
Gotcha.
Again, I'm paraphrasing Stephen here. I'm not. These aren't direct quotes. The scene where the Punisher breaks the bottle on crushes it around. On Jigsaw's hand. I said, that was in the movie Invasion USA, which came out a little while before this came out. Stephen says he's never seen Invasion USA. Had no idea there was such a scene in it. And this is the first he's heard of it. And that he and Mike Zeck were working on the issue a good year beforehand, so it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
But Stephen says that gimmick probably wasn't original to either the movie or the Punisher.
Of course.
I mean, it's great.
Yeah. I want to see more of it in more things.
It's one of my favorite scenes in a movie, period.
Right.
And Chuck is such a stud in that movie. It's awesome. But the bleach bottle silencer that the mobster's henchman uses, Gregorio uses. That was Mike Zeck's idea, and I guess that's a real thing according to Stephen. I don't know. Again, clever, cool. Yeah. Stephen says, I don't remember him taking off his shoes, but it's so he can get better toe holds in tiny spaces, like you figured. Yeah. Let's see. And then for the scene where Frank puts the oversized bullets in the chamber and then gives that gun to Jigsaw, Stephen says, I've never personally tried it, but I don't think that the oversized bullets in the gun can actually work. I doubt you can physically get oversized bullets into a chamber, but it sounds good on paper, doesn't it?
Yes, and I think it works.
I thought it was great, and I bought it.
Right. No. Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe if it's a slightly larger caliber, you can probably make it go.
Yeah, you can jam it in there.
I mean, it's not going to make the the whirly part of the revolver.
The chamber.
The chamber, is that what they're called?
Yeah, I think so.
Jeez, I'm suck. I've gone to the gun range. I'm not a gun guy.
I'm not either. No. Maybe that's why it worked so well on this.
Yeah. Right. This seems believable. But Stephen writes plenty of other crime fiction too. So I think this is really really in his wheelhouse. I'll have to lend you the trade for two guns.
Yeah.
And also I get this. It's not exactly a crime scene, but it's a fictionalized screenplay of the Kennedy assassination that Stephen wrote. And
wow.
I'm blanking on the name. I have it. I have the screenplay.
Uh-huh.
And he's also done it in comics. I got to pick that up.
Wow.
But I think it's fictionalized. Oh, I'm not sure.
Right.
But it's called Badlands, I think.
Mm.
And but I mean that's crime.
Yeah.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So other things like that. And I'm rambling now, but anyway, thank you so much for your notes, Stephen. I'm sure you'll probably have a thing or two to say about today's episode.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about start with anyway, The Punisher #2, cover dated February of 1986, but according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it hit the stands November 5th, 1985.
Yeah. Kind of. You want to just dive right in?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So we have. Frank Castle.
I should give the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This story in this issue is called Back to the War,
Mhm.
written by Stephen Grant, penciled by Mike Zeck, and inked by John Beatty.
Mhm.
Okay, now go.
Okay. So we have Frank scaling the side of a high-rise apartment complex up to the penthouse
Of the Kingpin.
of the Kingpin.
Yeah.
He fires a grenade launcher at the window because it turns out it's
Bulletproof
all
glass.
bulletproof, but
But
it's
it's
not gonna
like-
stop a grenade.
Yeah.
And so as soon as the glass breaks, he jumps in and he realizes, hey,
Also, I love this panel where he's jumping in. That
Yeah.
looks rad.
yeah,
Mike Zeck is at the top of his game here.
this is great. He jumps in and he's like shouting at Kingpin, and Kingpin's not moving, but he does smell something. He says that something's wrong. The air stinks of dust and rot. And so he walks over to Kingpin, who's not turned around in his chair,
Right.
and he pistol whips him and knocks him out of the chair, and he realizes this isn't the Kingpin.
Yeah, this guy's dead already, and it's like a Pacific Islander
Yeah,
made up to look like Kingpin.
right.
It's Polynesian, that's what he says.
Right.
It's a foolie,
Yeah.
so he's been set up.
Yeah, and so this fake Kingpin was sitting on a trigger of
A dead man
thermite.
switch.
Yeah, of thermite, and he has seconds to jump out of the building.
Right.
And then we have this full page
Splash.
back to the war title page, and he's flying out of the window.
Falling backwards.
Yeah, and he's counting down the seconds as he's falling.
How does he know how many seconds there'll be?
He's Frank Castle.
Okay.
Luckily, he had grabbed his what was it, grappling hook? Yeah,
I guess, yeah. I mean, that's how he mounted the building, right?
right. As he was jumping over the wall, he whips it around, connects to a fire escape, slams into the wall, so he's able to stop his
He
momentum.
looks like drunk Spider-Man when he's like like trying to get his.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know how Spidey will like flip around on stuff with the web?
He's just crashing into things.
Yeah. I do remember from the 80s, there was a story where Spidey goes to a party at his apartment building and he's got to leave to go fight the Hobgoblin. But somebody spiked the punch and he's drunk and he had to fight the Hobgoblin drunk. It's pretty funny.
So the crash into the side of the building stopped a lot of his momentum.
Yeah.
And so he falls
Into some conveniently placed garbage.
Yeah, and the padding in his suit and combined with the garbage kind of saves him from dying.
Right.
But he blacks out. But before he blacks out, he notices
A car pull
a
up.
car pull up, some beautiful legs step out of the car,
Yeah.
and a guy kind of around the corner, like watching what's
Right.
going on.
Now that's the mobster's son
Right.
from the end of the previous issue.
right.
We'll see more of him.
Mm-hmm. And he blacks out.
Yeah. He wakes up.
He wakes up in a bed. It smells of
Gals.
jasmine.
Oh,
Uh,
Jasmine.
Yeah, a woman's perfume. The woman
Yeah.
pulls his gun, and this beautiful woman walks in.
Yeah.
She
Chinese American.
Yeah, she introduces herself as Angela, and she's like, "Hey, I saved you. You're in my apartment. This is a place where you can stay and be safe.
Yeah. She
I
brought
won't
him.
give you up."
She brought him food, and he's like, he tosses her some of it. Like, you taste it first. She's like, why would I bring you here just to poison you?
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
And then she explains, like, look, she gives him this phony story. about. I mean, it's obviously phony.
Right.
About like her family being killed because they didn't pay protection money,
Right.
and now she wants to help him. She knows who he is, basically. Right.
And then they get it off.
Yeah, Frank totally gets laid. She says, "What does she say exactly?"
Oh, sorry.
It's phrased pretty great.
You understand? Let me help. I'm a nurse. I can patch you up when you're injured. I can give you a place to hide. Everything I have is yours. Everything. As she's slipping off her out of her.
I bet that means he
robe.
Can help himself to the ice cream in the fridge.
Right, of course. The next panel is her sleeping, him getting up, fully armored, and
armored. He put his gear back on.
Put his gear back on. And then he just kind of starts talking about how old he feels.
Yeah, it's the monologue in the caption boxes.
Right. He talks about Vietnam and how long ago it was. How it's just kind of he keeps mentioning the circle of blood around him. It's getting tighter. Everything he does, he thinks that he thinks will make things better.
Yeah.
Starts to just kind of break down even more.
Nice. Or not nice, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
I think this is the perfect way to give a lot of dialogue to a character who's not very chatty.
Right. And, I mean, is a pretty notorious loner.
Yeah.
You know?
And really it's the right way to write for this character.
Yeah.
If you're reading solo issues of Stabby McKnife Hands, same thing.
Yeah.
Same way you want to do it.
Right.
Although he's a little more talkative.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's him by himself doing stuff, rugged man stuff.
Right.
You know, splitting wood, smoking cigarettes, you know, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wolverine, you know.
So he realizes there's got to be a better way, and so he decides to make a phone call.
Yeah.
To his contact with the Trust.
The Trust.
It's good to hear from you. Really chatting up the Punisher. And so we kind of get a bit of a breakdown of who the Trust is.
They don't know that that wasn't the real Kingpin.
Right.
Or they totally know and don't care.
Right. We haven't gotten that point yet.
Yeah.
In our storyline. But we meet this new character, Alaric. And he congratulates him on the termination of the Kingpin. And he basically says, we're behind you 100% of the way. And Punisher hangs up on him.
Okay.
And makes another phone call to Ben Urich.
Ben Urich.
Ben Urich. Sorry.
Who he's in Daredevil.
I know who he is.
Okay.
At the Daily Bugle, and he's
just like, I killed the Kingpin last night, or Wilson Fisk, whatever.
Yeah.
Just thought you should know.
And he thinks this is going to start to break down the mob's hold of his city.
Yeah, well, it's going to definitely get them scrambling into action.
Right.
Which will make them slip up, and it's where he can get them.
Right.
It's a good move.
Mm-hmm. And so the kind of final panel on this page is the son of the mob boss kind of staking out Angela's place.
Right.
And watching the Punisher. Then we kind of get a turn in the story. We get a description of George Ovani.
Yeah.
He's a mob guy, and how every morning at 6 a.m. he will go out and pick up his newspaper.
Yeah, but
set your watch to it.
But this time he dies.
Right, he's dead. Then we get this kind of,
and of course this is typical. Big mob boss dies. Other guys,
right,
kill other guys to consolidate power.
Morgan Steps, another mob guy, dead in a crash in an elevator. Let's see, Bo Berrigan drowned in a bathroom sink.
Another guy's a fishing accident,
right,
or sorry, drowned, I guess. Another guy drinks Drano.
Ooh,
that's especially gruesome.
Yeah, left and right, all these guys are dying, and so we get this idea, like, what's his? I'm not really sure who it is. Anyways,
give it to me.
Another mob boss decides it's Charlie
Siciliano.
Siciliano, that's right. uh, he needs to make peace with these guys, or everything's gonna fall apart.
Word.
And of course, Punisher's out front in his Vermin Slayer van.
I love it. It's like his van at the cover is its exterminator's thing.
Right.
Also, pretty room. The battle van, pretty roomy.
Yeah. We find out that it was set up by the Trust.
Of course.
They gave it to him. It's totally fully armored. It has the top of the line technology. Any gun that he might need is in this van.
And he's got some super sweet 1980s computers.
Right, and he can stand up straight in this van. So on the outside, it kind of looks like a smaller van, but it's like bigger on the inside.
Clearly, it's like a double wide
right
on the inside.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't introducing TARDIS technology into the Punisher battle van.
Right.
But that's okay.
Yeah. So Punisher hops
Straight
out of the
from
van.
Gallifrey.
Punisher hops out of the van, and we get these two panels of a gun pointed at Punisher,
Yeah.
and then said, "No, not like this. I'll kill you to your face."
And it's
the son again.
the son of the mob guy. I wish I could really remember who his name is. What his name is. Son of the mob guy. You know.
So they're meeting in Grand Central Station.
Yeah.
All of the mob folks, and so from what I understood, Punisher was there, and he was gonna like.
They're meeting at Grand Central Station?
Yeah, it's empty.
Oh,
it
weird.
was
Okay.
closed down. And from what I understand, Punisher was going to go there to take them out. But
Yeah.
before he can, someone else starts shooting at him.
Yeah. He's a paid assassin that Frank is aware of, but they've never crossed paths.
Right. Nolo Contendra.
Give me that. Nolo Contendre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nolo Contendra. So Punisher
I'm
is pissed
kidding.
because
Gosh.
he didn't get to kill these guys.
Yeah.
And so he takes off after Nolo.
Yeah.
And they hop on to a subway train. And they're about to fight. And
And they do.
they do. Yeah. Punisher
Pretty
gets
dope
kicked,
fight.
and then Punisher gets shot in the chest, but he's fine.
Yeah,
it's
because it's
shot.
Kevlar under the skull. Everybody aims at the skull. It's a
Right.
great target,
Yeah,
but duh, it's Kevlar.
right. However, Nolo doesn't care about innocent bystanders. So
Yeah.
he's shooting wildly. People are getting hit, and this is something that Punisher is really worried about because his family was gunned down.
Yeah.
You know, so
His whole thing is he doesn't want that to happen to anybody else.
right.
So he's
So-
particularly sensitive about that.
He notices all these people are getting shot that have no real stake in this at all. So he pulls a knife from his boot and nails Nolo in the chest with it. He's distracted, and Nolo ends up tackling him. They ends up coming down to like fists and feet. And Punisher throws him through a window. His head is stuck, and then the doors open,
And it cuts his head off.
and that's I'm assuming his
That's
head was cut off.
awesome!
Yeah. But Punisher has a moment where he realizes that all these innocent people just watched him kill this guy,
Yeah.
and they have no idea what's going on.
Right.
They don't know that this guy just ruined everything. They don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so all they see is Punisher murdering some dude.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
who's shooting back? It's not
right.
like he was unarmed.
But everyone is afraid of him.
Yeah. So he splits back to the battle van, which explodes right
Yeah.
before he gets
blows
there.
up. And so he's like, I gotta make a call. I
Calls
need some help.
calls the commission, his contract with the commission.
The Trust.
Yeah, sorry. Dang it, I did that again. Trust.
But this time, Angela is
Is-
there
with
with
the guy.
Alaric. Yeah.
So, like,
Um,
man,
Yeah. So now we know for sure that she is
totally part of the trust.
right. Yeah.
And,
He's trying to manipulate.
well, duh. But now we know for sure.
Right.
Like, and this is that panel is very effective in
Absolutely.
establishing that, like, oh,
Right.
Frank is being manipulated.
So Frank calls. He needs a new van. He needs new guns. He needs new equipment.
And they're like, hey, whatever you need.
Yeah. it could be the start of a beautiful friendship.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the end of issue 2.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a quick promotional break, and when we come back, The Punisher issue 3.
Right.
Aquaman and Firestorm fighting crime together. Soak 'em down or burn 'em up. No one does it better. Whenever you find trouble, they'll always be there to catch them in a bubble or even torch their hair. Stand for truth and justice in sea, on land, and air. Firestorm and Aquaman, they make a super pair.
The Fire and Water Podcast, celebrating Aquaman, King of the Seven Seas, and Firestorm, the Nuclear Man.
Available weekly on Aquaman Shrine, Firestorm Fan, and on iTunes and Stitcher.
I'm one of your hosts, the Irredeemable Shag, here to talk about Firestorm. Along with me is my co-host Rob Kelly, here to talk about some guy that talks to fish.
Really? You're going to pull this crap during the promo? Bad enough, I have to put up with your shenanigans every week, but...
Guys, we finally developed our time machine. Should we use it to go back and see how Stonehenge was built?
Or become friends with Hitler and convince him to stay in art school. Or we could go back in time and get the comic books we missed. Yeah!
The Comic Book Time Machine. A journey back in time to explore comic books. Good and bad. Whether from 7 decades or 7 days ago. Join our journey at comicbooktimemachine.com.
And we're back. Now, on to The Punisher, number 3, cover dated March of 1986. But according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it hit the stands December 10th, 1985. So, the story in this issue is called Slaughter Day, which I love that.
Yeah, the best name for any title.
I'm surprised that's not an 80s slasher movie. In fact, it might be.
Oh.
I need to look it up.
Yeah.
Written, of course, by Stephen Grant, penciled by Mike Zeck, and inked by John Beatty.
Yeah. So we have some mobsters coming out of a cafe, the San Juan Cafe. And they're discussing how the Punisher is starting to break up business. And that with Kingpin gone,
Yeah.
he was kind of the linchpin of all of the mob.
Yeah, of all the organized crime in
Like
New York.
Well, earlier in this, it mentioned that he was the East Coast.
Oh, yeah, okay.
With him dead, things are starting to really break down. And so these three guys are making their way. Santiago is kind of their leader at this point. And he's leading them to a car, but there's some guns pointed at them from a rooftop. And in a hail of gunfire, Santiago is able to get into the limo, but his two buddies are down.
They're killed.
Yeah, they're dead. And Jacques' men, who we find out...
Is that how we're going to say it?
Yeah, I think that's how we're going to say it.
Okay.
We might be wrong.
God, I hope he dies soon, because I can't stand that name.
No,
Ugh, it's just too foreign to even try to pronounce. I know that sounds really xenophobic and
Little
stuff,
bit,
but some names are just too gross for words, and that is one of them.
yeah. So Jacques' men are after Santiago, and he's telling Luis to step on it. And he's, wait, who are you? And it's definitely Frank Castle.
Yeah! Big splash page.
Yeah. And Santiago is reaching into his pocket for his revolver.
Looking scared as crap, and Frank
Yeah.
looking super intense.
Yeah. And so another hail of gunfire is rained down upon the car. And Castle does this weird,
Why does everyone drive a Lincoln Town Car?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Frank hits a rough patch in the road, kind of spins out, and throws himself and Santiago from the car,
Yeah.
grabs him by the scruff of the neck, and gets him out of the way of the accident that is happening.
So the car is still going? Or no, the bad guys are chasing them. The car
Right,
crashes. Bad guys are chasing them. Frank jumps into an open manhole
Yeah.
and shoots the gas tank under the car as it drives over him. And
Yeah.
so it explodes, killing those guys.
Absolutely.
That is super rad.
Yeah. So
Would
cool.
not the explosion, the flames go down too?
We're reading comic books.
Oh, right. Okay. Sometimes the science of comics. But the car blowing up, it blowed up real good.
Uh-huh.
And I like the panel of Frank coming out of the manhole. That looks
Yeah,
pretty
me
dope
too.
too. I like his holster is white. I like it. It's pretty neat. His character design, the costume design is great.
Yeah.
For a guy who's not a superhero, he was a great superhero costume.
Yeah.
You know?
He comes out of the manhole and he has a conversation with Santiago,
Yeah.
basically saying, "Hey, I just saved your life,
Yes, you did.
and I'm gonna continue keeping you alive, because let's be honest, I'm Frank Castle and I could kill you at any minute."
Does he say it quite like that?
No, I'm paraphrasing.
Okay. Because he says
Uh,
Frank Castle is dead. There's only the Punisher.
Right.
He said later. He says,
Right.
But yeah.
Gun to Santiago's face. You're gonna get everyone to meet.
I like this panel. You see he's pressing the gun into the cheek.
Yeah,
And you
And
see
you
the
can
meat of
definitely
his
see,
face
yeah.
moving along with that. That's a nice detail. I like that.
absolutely. And Frank walks away with a blaze behind him, which is
It's very Michael Bay.
right.
Before Michael Bay. Before that became a cliche, it was actually cool.
Yeah. And so in a monologue, he mentions, "I hate this." He hates the fact that he's relying on this criminal,
Yeah.
this mobster, to get stuff done.
But it's the means to an end.
Right.
It's going to allow him to kill
Right.
more bad guys.
So I grab at straws like Santiago. He heads back to Angela's place. She tries to give him a neck rub, and she kind of like slips the, "Oh, why don't you call for backup? You mentioned someone. What was it? The Trust?" And really just kind of starts pushing Frank in the direction of the
You
Trust.
would think
and
he would be.
hilarious.
I'm sure he's picking up on this. He's got to
I
be
think so,
calling
too. Yeah.
BS on this in his mind.
But he mentions kind of the circle of blood again,
Yeah.
and how it's kind of like starting to like cinch up on him.
Yeah.
And that he's not going to be able to escape it. All the while, this whole conversation is being recorded
Oh.
and like transmitted directly to Alaric and this guy he calls Texas. And Texas is concerned that they're not going to get the Punisher to join the Trust.
Wow.
And Alaric said, "Yeah, just wait. We have Angela. She's pulling some strings."
She's pulling more some strings, if you know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying.
Yeah. But she's starting to get to Castle.
I
He
could have-
says, "Justice by committee? There's too much room for biased corruption, isn't there?" So he's starting to question himself and
Yeah.
whether or not he can get this done all on his own. Looking out the window, he notices a red car with a dude sitting in it. And he's like, "Wait,
It looks more like purple to me.
okay, fine. Purple."
Not important detail.
He grabs Angela, puts her in front of the window and says, "Make it look like you're having a conversation with me." And he runs downstairs and busts the window of
The one mob guy's son who
Yeah.
keeps following Frank. Really wish I'd-
Mickey Macera's kid.
Yeah, okay.
Tony Macera.
Tony
That's his name.
Macera. This is Tony?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is Tony. And Punisher's like, "Oh, you want revenge? You're just like the rest of them. Pull your gun and do it then." And it basically tells him to kill me now, or
Come on, I'm here, kill me!
exactly.
Yeah, you've seen Predator, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because if you don't do it now, when you do decide to do it, you're gonna end up dead.
Yeah.
And he walks away. You'll die like your father, and the circle of blood tightens.
Cool.
Yeah. So Punisher, not one to be patient, scales the side of another building, and he's decided he's gonna make everyone show up at this meeting. So
Cool.
he got Santiago to set a meeting, and now he's going around to the rest of the mobsters, or the mob bosses. There we go.
That was an interesting portmanteau you
yeah.
just created. Mob bosters.
The mob bosses,
Yeah.
and getting them to sign on to this new meeting.
Yeah.
These three panels were some of my favorites.
Yeah.
What did we say it was?
Izaka?
Ajaka. There it is.
Gosh.
I cannot remember it for the life of me.
Man, I was like, I thought this guy was dead already.
I know. Ajaka's on the phone with this mob boss, and he, the Punisher walks up. Marcus Coriander. No, it's not Marcus Coriander. It's someone else. Simon. That's his name. He walks up, puts the gun against his face. We get that kind of skin meat push again. And then immediately Simon starts sweating almost, completely uncontrollably, but also there is a lot of sweat on this guy.
Yeah.
And Punisher says, "You're going to follow directions. You're going to go to this meeting." And he
He
wants to
sweating
know
more
about-
than Nixon during the debates with Kennedy.
Yeah. Maybe not. I mean, no, yeah, totally.
Or Reagan during his testimony of the Iran-Contra affair. Which hadn't happened at this time, right?
I don't think
I
so.
think Iran-Contras was late 80s, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
On his way out, Punisher says,
Wait, did Reagan testify, or am I thinking Ollie North?
I think you're thinking Ollie North.
Although, I don't know if Reagan testified for that at
I
all.
don't think he did.
I'm certainly not confusing the two of them, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Really, my knowledge of this comes from reading an old Mad magazine. So,
Awesome. Punisher wants to know about Marcus Coriander. He came out of nowhere. He's new in town. He's kind of one of these. He's one of the guys that kind of came up from the death of Kingpin.
yeah.
So Punisher heads back to the San Juan Cafe, throws the doors open, and he's looking to meet with Santiago. Knocks some guys out with the door. They pull guns on him. He's like, "Hey, Santiago's expecting me." They're like, "Punisher's already here. What are you doing here?" And so Santiago's having this conversation in another room with someone dressed as the Punisher.
But he's not as good as the Punisher because
No.
Frank comes into the room and like shoots him in the throat.
Yeah.
Well, no, not in the throat. But he shoots him. He kills him.
Yeah. But before he can kill this imposter, the imposter shot Santiago. And Santiago is kind of like, "Hey, you said you were going to take care of me. You're going to let me die now? You're going to let me die?" And then,
Pretty much.
yeah, he is this how you keep your promises? And Frank's face in this panel,
He looks bummed about it.
yeah.
Like, you know, this guy's like a criminal, but he's
Right.
not. He's kind of low end. Like he did it. We'd established earlier. Like this guy didn't do drugs or prostitution. It was really just gambling
Right.
and things. So he was relatively clean.
Mhm.
And yeah, he did promise that he was going to keep him alive
Right.
in exchange, and he wasn't able to fulfill that promise.
He wasn't. And so now he's really kind of pissed.
Yeah.
Um,
You think he's going to kill some guys?
I think he is.
Okay.
He makes his way uptown to Coriander's place, and we get
A bunch of guys who are dressed as Punisher because they're out being copycats to,
right.
sully his name. He's already a wanted man. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. And so he's training them with these like pop-up Punisher
Which you've
machine.
totally seen in many police training sequences in movies
Right.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And they all shoot and "You're too slow. You're 3 seconds slow. He'd kill you by now." And he's like warning them.
You probably also wouldn't be standing in a line,
Right.
like out in the open.
And he's basically telling them, "You need to be ready for when Punisher gets here."
And then
Goes
he
in his
shows up
office.
right then.
Punisher is hiding behind the door. I've been here for hours.
Whoa, hours?
That's
Jeez.
what he says, yeah.
That's funny.
Gets in Coriander's face with like a 9mm machine gun.
That might be a comic book. No, that looks like an Uzi to me.
Yeah.
Uzi 9mm. Okay,
Uh,
sorry.
it's all good. I don't know a lot.
I'm not a gun guy.
Gets in his face and Coriander basically breaks down. We were hired by the Kingpin because the Kingpin wanted to get rid of some competition. He wanted to start new, and so he knew that you would kill them all, and just start spilling his guts.
Yeah.
And
It's like, dude, your life isn't anything, because if Frank doesn't kill you, the Kingpin sure will.
right. But now nothing will have changed. And then Frank gets hit in the head with a lamp. And Coriander takes off.
And the other guy's dressed as Punisher.
They were all ready to kill him, talking big, until he shows up.
And then they're practically peeing their pants.
Right.
But since he has a gun, they have guns.
Right. Don't argue, don't think, do it. Kill the Punisher. And he's standing there in the next panel, be my guest. Just ready for them to, like...
That's just so much bravado. There's so much Stallone in that right there.
Yeah.
You know?
Coriander heads for the elevator, makes it down. Frank makes it down the stairs as fast as he gets out of the elevator. And the guy just starts shooting wildly.
And he shoots some civilians, including a child.
Right.
A little girl.
And this really messes with
Frank. He has a flashback of when his wife and children were killed.
Not the child. Everywhere, it's the children who get hurt. The children who die, like my children. Mine. It's got to stop. And so he takes... Coriander, obviously upset that he's shot a kid.
Yeah.
Takes off out of the building, down an alleyway where Frank follows him. And he's just sitting in some trash, crying. I didn't mean it. It's Kingpin's fault. It's all his problem. Like, it's all his fault. And Frank basically confronts him. He's like, whose fault is it then? You know?
Yeah.
And then he's conditioned. He can't say his name is Alaric. And then he's immediately shot.
Frank is.
No. Coriander. Coriander's shot.
And then so Frank then knows, wait, Alaric, that's my contact with the Trust.
Right.
Angela comes out of nowhere and shoots Frank.
Right. Yeah.
So...
Not you two.
So he wasn't onto her.
No.
Although it was obvious to the reader, but I guess maybe not obvious to the Frank. So that's where we left off. That's the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I am excited to round this out.
Yeah.
Because I really want him to just go to town on the Trust.
Yeah.
Because I think they're involved with the clearing out of the mob bosses even more than...
You think?
Yeah, even more so than the Kingpin cleaning house.
Oh, what if the Trust was just a front and it was the Kingpin's deal all along? Ooh, we'll find out in 2 weeks.
We will.
Comic Reflections is recorded in Portland, Oregon, and produced by Sean Roof.
He is just the worst kind of person.
Nah, he's okay. I bet at least he's read some Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh, yeah,
unlike
sure.
you garbage piece of crap. Until next time.
Stop and listen! Stop and listen to me! Listen! Listen! Listen to me! They're not humans! Everyone! They're here already! You're next!
November 4th, 1988. Earth is invaded by an alien alliance composed of several species, including the Dominators, the Khunds, the Tanagarians, and the Durlans. And they want our superheroes. Even though Australia has been decimated, the United Nations response is unequivocal. Drop dead. First Strike, the Invasion podcast, takes you back to that moment in time and covers the entire Invasion DC Comics crossover. Issue by issue, tie-in by tie-in. Join Bass and Siskoid at fireandwaterpodcast.com or on iTunes. First Strike, the Invasion podcast, a proud member of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Remember, Albert.
So we gonna be working together? Really? Worst film you ever saw? Well, my next one will be better.
It's the Film and Water Podcast. The Film and Water Podcast covers movies new and old, classic and not so classic. Proud member of the Fire and Water Podcast Network, available weekly on fireandwaterpodcast.com and on iTunes and Stitcher.